Okay, stand by. Stand by. Hold on. Hi there. Sorry about that. We had a wonderful day today. We had an incredible glitch that cost me the show at its normal time, which is from 9 until 11 Central Time. So we're going to be on from noon until 2 Central Time. And I want to thank you very much for your forbearance and all of that. And I'm very, very sorry that that's what happened today, but doggone it, that's what happened today. And I hope that you are patient enough with me as I go through this brand new set of brand new parameters. We keep doing this. It's not because we feel like it's the right thing to do. It's because it's what we do insofar as things change, and we have to change it. So, what are you watching? You're watching the Wells Report. We report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. We make commentary, which is not news. Commentary is opinion. And so we debate news, analysis, commentary, and debate. And we always start our broadcast with what we start our broadcast with, which is, okay, word salad time. I'm sorry, I've been watching too much Kamala Harris video. So that being said, it is time for, let me start over so that I can get this cleanly later on when I do something else. Time now for the front page. This is a news digest since yesterday's broadcast. And while we were sleeping, here's the latest news. 12 more hostages have been released by Hamas and are free in Gaza. This, according to USA Today. The process of transferring a fifth group of Hamas-held hostages to the Red Cross en route to freedom began today as the two-day extension of an uneasy truce played out in the war-battered Gaza Strip. A short time ago, the representatives of the Red Cross transferred 12 abductees to Egypt. This, according to the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force. 10 of the freed hostages are Israeli, 9 women and a 17-year-old girl. The other 2 are Thai. In other words, they're from Thailand. The statement said the convoy was headed from Egypt toward Kerem Shalom, a kibbutz along Israel's border. Security officials will verify the identity of the returning hostages and update the families. About an hour after the Israeli announcement, 30 Palestinian prisoners were then released. The U.S. government has warned Israel to curb collateral damage when the war continues. This from USA Today. Israel must work to avoid significant further displacement of Palestinian citizens in southern Gaza if it renews its ground campaign aimed at eradicating Hamas. This, according to a senior U.S. official. The administration, seeking to avoid more large-scale civilian casualties or mass displacement, underscored to the Israelis that they must operate with greater precision in southern Gaza than they did in the north, said the officials, briefing reporters on the condition of anonymity under ground rules set by the White House. For the rest of the world's part, the G7 foreign ministers are urging the release of all hostages. This from USA Today. The G7 foreign ministers of Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, Britain, and the United States, in addition to the High Representative of the European Union, are calling for the unconditional release of all hostages held by Hamas and the facilitated departure of foreign nationals from Gaza. This, according to a statement released by the United States State Department. This happened today. The G7 added that if it supports the further extension of the current pause in fighting, that if it remains committed to a two-state solution for both Israelis and Palestinians to live in a just, lasting, and secure peace. Elsewhere internationally, there is a new respiratory virus that is ravaging Beijing and northern China. This from CNN. Hospitals in northern China and Beijing have reported a surge in the number of children with respiratory illnesses, including pneumonia. Last week, the World Health Organization asked China to provide more information on the cases. In the meantime, other governments and hospitals can bolster their own infrastructure. They should be on the lookout for a rise in influenza-like illnesses and pneumonia cases and test promptly. They should also ensure that they have the capacity to treat patients who need hospital care. It's very possible that other areas, especially those with previously strict virus mitigation measures, will see a rise in respiratory illnesses this winter. Health systems need to prepare for a potential influx of patients, very much like they did during the peak of COVID-19. Congress, by the way, has called on the Congress has been called on to stop CCP biotech companies from collecting U.S. DNA. This from Fox News. More than a dozen conservative groups are calling for an amendment to the National Defense Appropriations Act to stop the U.S. government contracts with a Chinese Communist Party-linked biotech firm, that is China's Beijing Genomics Institute, the BGI. Representative Mike Gallagher, the chairman of the House Select Committee on the CCP, told Fox News that BGI collects genetic data on people all over the world, to include that of pregnant women, and uses it for research for the Chinese military. The CCP will undoubtedly use the genetic data collected by BGI to further its malign aggression, potentially even to develop a bioweapon used to target the American people. That is a quote from Representative Mike Gallagher. The good news is that Congress can do something about it. U.S. military checks in with sad news today. A V-22 Osprey has crashed off the Japan western coast. This from Fox News. A U.S. military V-22 Osprey aircraft with 6 people aboard crashed off the coast of western Japan. This happened today, according to a report from the Associated Press. The Japanese Coast Guard said the crash site is off Yukishima Island, and patrol boats and aircraft have been deployed to the location for search and rescue efforts. At least one person was killed in the crash, according to Coast Guard officials. Gray-colored debris believed to belong to the Osprey were located by the Japanese Coast Guard about 0.6 miles off the coast of the island, according to the AP. The report initially said 8 people were on board. Fox News has reached out to Kadena Air Force Base in Okinawa, Yokota Air Force Base in western Tokyo, and the U.S. Forces Japan Public Affairs Office and the Japanese Coast Guard for more information. Should they come up with that, we will report it here on the Wells Report. 2024 election news now. The Obamacare debate has returned for the upcoming election. This from USA Today. The 2024 presidential debates are months away. But President Joe Biden and ex-President Donald Trump are already engaging in general election-style disputes, starting with a long-standing issue, government health care. Biden and his re-election campaign officials are zeroing in on the former president after he said over the weekend he's considering alternatives to President Barack Obama's signature health care bill, which Trump claims drives up costs. President Trump has yet to offer a specific plan, but he has backed proposals that would terminate health care insurance for millions of Americans, according to President Biden and his supporters. The quote from President Trump was, "The cost of Obamacare is out of control. Plus, it's not good health care. I'm seriously looking at alternatives," unquote. CNN reports that Nikki Haley is going to be lavishly funded, and hopefully that funding will carry the hopes of the influential network funded by billionaire Charles Koch and top industrial and corporate donors who think Donald Trump is a risk to be elected next November. Their bet is the former South Carolina governor can succeed where busted 2016 $100 million frontrunner Jeb Bush, Democrat nominee Hillary Clinton, 2 impeachments, old school Republicans like Mitt Romney, millions splashed by the Club for Growth, and the Lincoln Project and allied groups, a 2020 election defeat, a pliant House GOP majority, and several special counsels failed. They're hoping that this funding will be able to propel Nikki Haley to the nomination and then the presidency, in spite of the fact that it has not worked up to this point. President Trump, for his part, has received a very interesting endorsement, that specifically from Black Lives Matter. A BLM leader threw his support behind President Trump in the 2024 race for the White House, accusing Democrats of racist policies that are working against the Black community. Mark Fisher, who is the co-founder of Black Lives Matter Rhode Island, joined Fox and Friends to discuss why some Black voters are leaving the Democrat Party as they contemplate who they will vote for in the 2024 presidential election. It is the duplicity of the Democrats, the hypocrisy, Fisher told Lawrence Jones on yesterday. "We're not stupid. The brothers are not stupid. We understand when someone's for us and when someone's not. And it's obvious the Democrat Party is not for us." Elsewhere in politics, Hunter Biden has offered to testify before the House Oversight Committee, and then the chairman, James Comer, decided that what he would do is refuse that. The Republican-led House Oversight Committee rebuffed an offer by Hunter Biden to testify publicly in response to a subpoena for a closed-door deposition, this being reported by Bloomberg. Biden's attorney Abby Lowell yesterday told House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer that his client would testify at a public hearing on December 13th. the date the panel has subpoenaed him to testify in private, or another day that month. Comer said that Biden was trying to play by his own rules. The panel expects full cooperation with the subpoena for a deposition and then plans a public testimony with Hunter Biden at a later date. And that is the front page. Once again, thanks very much for your kind, shall we say, allowance for my technical glitch of earlier today. This is the Wells Report, and yes, we are going to broadcast until 2 this afternoon. So we'll be on from noon until 2, as opposed to our normal 9 to 11. And once again, thanks very much for being so patient with us. Coming up in just a couple of seconds, there is a story from the Supreme Court of the United States that has to do with trying to rein in the executive branch. More coming up.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. Thanks very much for joining us. Hi, I'm John David Wells. So I have been talking for a very long time about how executive branch agencies are dangerously out of control. I've also been discussing that all of the hassles over the materials taken by Donald Trump from the White House will serve as a way to define presidential power when it comes to an administration's papers at the end of that administration. The Supreme Court apparently agrees. This came out today, and this is important. Supreme Court is returning to the so-called administrative state. They're going to do that today. It's a case that offers a conservative majority of the court a fresh chance to pare back the authority of regulatory agencies and could potentially enhance presidential power. If you remember, the court did roll back some things from the EPA. And apparently they're planning on taking another bite of the administrative state apple. The case involves the reach of the Security and Exchange Commission, established in 1934 to protect investors and maintain orderly markets. But it could also impact other federal agencies depending on how the justices view the dispute. It's one of several cases this term where conservatives on the court are expected to take a hard look at the structure of government out of a belief that independent executive branch agencies are held unaccountable to the public, and they have become too powerful, which is a violation of the separation of powers that is charted out by the Constitution of the United States. It's absolutely true. These agencies can essentially make law without the hindrance of the Congress, and that's something that needs to go away. All of these regulations from every executive branch agency simply must be voted on by representatives of the people, all of us. And that they don't do that allows the EPA to somehow find themselves in somebody's property telling them they can't build a pond on their own land because it's going to violate the Wetlands Act of some kind. And that is ridiculous. It's absolutely unconstitutional. And I'm pretty sure that the Supreme Court of the United States is going to find that way. And we'll also have another test to find out just how political the court is. This is straightforward. Executive branch agencies may indeed make regulations, but every one of those regulations must be voted on by the representatives of the people. Further, they can have no enforcement capability. In other words, enforcement has to go through the DOJ instead of just having their own enforcement folks showing up and saying, hey, you got to do this or we're going to start fining you. No, that's got to go through a court. And those are the things that have to happen. And hopefully this decision by the Supreme Court, this upcoming decision, will do exactly that. One aspect of the case is it's going to be decided in July in the heat of the presidential election concerns the tenure of administrative law judges who can only be removed for cause and not the whim of a president. It comes as former President Donald Trump suggested if he were reelected, he would want the authority to fire anybody who believed that he was not having his directions followed. The justices will be reviewing the latest controversial opinion from the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, one of the most conservative appellate courts in the country that covers Louisiana, Mississippi, and Texas, where conservative litigants often file suit hoping for eventual Supreme Court review. On the other side of the divide are those who are fearful of undermining the government's regulatory powers out of a belief that an agency with its vast subject matter expertise is best suited to tackle complex issues in areas such as financial regulation, the environment, and workplace protections. No, you do not get to regulate without the help of the Congress of the United States. You cannot create your own laws and then enforce them. This has been abused by virtually every executive branch agencies, to include the DOJ. And so here we are in a situation where the Supreme Court of the United States has finally said, gosh, you know what? There's a problem, and hopefully they are going to do something about it, and that should begin sometime in July of next year. This has gone far too far and far too long to not be taken care of, and thank goodness the Supreme Court of the United States has a chance to actually rein in the powers of executive branch agencies and maybe even the president himself or herself. Back in a moment.
wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to Low Cost Airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. I am John David Wells. Thank you for joining us today. Our chat room is going. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, X, Twitch, Rumble, and Patreon. By all means, do check in if you can, and I sure would appreciate it. A surge of respiratory illnesses related to the flu, respiratory syncytial virus, RSV, or other infections have been sweeping across parts of China and mainly infecting children as the country experiences its first full winter since easing COVID-19 restrictions. Amid media reports of undiagnosed pneumonia cases overwhelming hospitals in the past few weeks, health authorities have insisted the uptick is linked to common illnesses like the flu. Let's hope that that is the case. There are reports that we have available, and we are going to show them to you at this particular moment. This is how we'll start our coverage of this here on the Wells Report for this 29th day of November. It's Wednesday.
These scenes of packed hospital waiting rooms raise an alarm in China as it grapples with a spike in respiratory illnesses, mostly in children. The World Health Organization is asking for more information. Here, flu is now spreading across the U.S., the CDC reporting a nearly 4% increase in flu-related doctor's visits. The Southeast hit especially hard, but not like last year's triple-demic, flu, COVID, and RSV. Doctors say RSV cases are on the rise.
We've actually seen a tremendous increase in the number of children who we have diagnosed with RSV over the past 7 to 8 weeks. Probably some of the highest that we've seen all season.
Dr. Shane thinks cases have peaked at her hospital. They're increasing among children at GBMC Healthcare in Maryland. But a new preventive antibody called Beyfortus is in short supply.
How many doses did you get and how many doses do you need? I need a whole lot more than what I've gotten. I have gotten received less than 50.
Dr. Teresa Wynn says it is crucial expectant moms get the RSV vaccine made for them.
Pregnant mothers between 32 to 36 weeks can get the vaccine, and if there's been 4 weeks, they have made antibodies and have passed it on to their infants at birth.
Though the CDC says 77,000 additional doses will be made available, it's advising doctors to prioritize those who need it, including infants 6 months and younger or with underlying conditions.
And Ann joins me here in the studio. Why is this antibody in such short supply right now?
Well, the manufacturer, Sanofi Pasteur, says that despite an aggressive supply plan, the demand for Beyfortus has been much higher than anticipated. In the meantime, doctors say it's also important for adults over the age of 60 to get the RSV vaccine to stop the spread and protect the most vulnerable and youngest among us, especially during the holidays.
And that is something that we're watching very carefully, and it's impossible to bring this up without bringing up something that happened during the last election cycle. That was something called COVID-19. Now, this was something that was played with by the CDC and politicians all over the world, but especially in the United States. And that turned into a way to suspend the Constitution of the United States based on the fact that we had to do something about this virus. Well, there were all kinds of other problems with that. The reporting, for example, of somewhere in the vicinity of 12 million flu cases. Well, the flu cases in the United States are always in the 100 million range when it comes to these kinds of things. And why it is that there was no flu when there was COVID is something that people are still scratching their heads about. In fact, on our chat room just moments ago, Yvonne mentioned, are the Chinese playing with viruses again? I don't trust them not to. Well, yeah, Yvonne. See, this is something that we can't avoid. We cannot avoid thinking or being skeptical of anything coming out of the government with regards, or the media with regards to these respiratory viruses that seem to appear every presidential election cycle. Why is that? Well, because the CDC, the United States government, and not just the United States government, but governments all across this land at the state, county, even city level, were absolutely used as a political football by any politician who felt the need to be able to suspend constitutional rights, which is exactly what they did. Now, what they're saying is this is RSV. They're only mentioning it's related to the flu. Something tells me it's the flu, like it wasn't when it was COVID-19. And lots of people died, but how many of those people died because of the flu, as opposed to COVID-19, which, by the way, the CDC came back later and said was a comorbidity to people who were dying of COVID-19. So once again, this patchwork of political, lies is now rearing its ugly head again this time around. And China is the place where it's starting yet again. Will it circle the globe as it did last time? Well, remember the Asian flu? Remember the Spanish flu? Remember the swine flu? Well, yeah, they circle the globe. Did you get your flu shot? I did. Will I be protected? I don't know. I have no idea. All I can tell you is that these questions have to be asked by anybody who's responsible, regardless of which political ox you seem to be trying to herd these days. This is a problem. This is when public health becomes a political football. This is when these so-called emergencies used to suspend constitutional rights in this nation become a huge problem. Already, they're talking about the possibility of going back to masking. Really? Masking? I don't think that that's going to fly this time around. As a matter of fact, I'm absolutely sure that it is not going to fly this time around. Getting back to the ABC News article, amid reports of undiagnosed pneumonia cases overwhelming hospitals, health authorities have insisted the uptick is common illnesses, okay, like the flu. Since May, China has been experiencing an increasing number of children sick with Mycoplasma pneumoniae, or pneumonia. That's bacteria that causes mild infections of the respiratory system, as well as pediatric cases of RSV, adenovirus, influenza, COVID-19 since the fall, according to the World Health Organization, which, by the way, is another organization that played handsy-footsie with the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, when it came to actually trying to pin down where COVID-19 came from, something that we do not have definitive information on to this day. A so-called public health emergency that required the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights to be suspended, and we still don't know everything we need to know about COVID-19, and now here it comes again. Don't expect the American people to be listening to all of these so-called political geniuses. Don't expect them to be willing to put up with the loss of their constitutional and Bill of Rights guarantees from this government. Don't expect it, because it's not going to happen. And why this is happening again, or why the people that took advantage of it last time think that there is some way of pulling it off again, I have no idea. But I can tell you here in America, that's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And so what are your thoughts? Telephone number 817-379-2172, 817-379-2172. The CDC is not a form of fake media, says Ann. No, but it certainly did feed fake media, and it certainly did alter its own information, its own public information about a public health issue for political sake, or for the sake of politics. We know that's the case. So they may not be a fake media source, but they are certainly a source of the fake media. The CDC should have been completely disbanded, done away with after this falderall, and it didn't, so we still have it, and so it's still speaking when what it should be doing is trying to figure out whether it wants to be a political organization or whether it wants to be an organization that is put in power by the government of the United States to protect the public health. And, you know, don't get me started on the WHO. The WHO is a corrupt organization in the pocket of the Chinese Communist Party. And we know that to be true. These are not things we have to guess about. These are things that are plainly obvious. And no, we're not going to have the same experience we had last time, unless I'm completely wrong. If I am, by all means, please share. 817-379-2172, 817-379-2172. So the WHO is going back to what they tried last time and were completely ineffectual at being able to accomplish. They submitted an official request to China for information on an increase in respiratory illnesses and reported clusters of pneumonia in children. No new viruses or unconditional conditions or unusual conditions have been identified. This according to Mi Feng, a spokesperson for the Chinese National Health Commission, who spoke at a press conference over the weekend. According to the analysis, acute respiratory diseases in China have continued to rise recently, which is related to the superposition of multiple respiratory pathogens, he said. Mi Feng said that with the coming of winter and the increased number of respiratory illnesses, China's National Health Commission and National Administration of Disease Control and Prevention are continuing to monitor the diseases, promote vaccination, dispatch medical resources, and make sure that people receive treatment. Following a meeting with local health authorities, the WHO noted that while the increase was earlier in the season than usual, it was not unexpected given the lifting of COVID-19 restrictions as similarly experienced in other countries. You also have to keep something else in mind, that while we were all chasing COVID-19, we took our eye off the flu ball. In other words, a lot of people may have set aside their ideas about getting a flu shot based on the fact that they wanted to get a COVID-19 shot. And so consequently, there are people that are more vulnerable to the flu now than they were in previous years, insofar as the flu shot got essentially just shoved off to the side because we had Operation Warp Speed. We had to come up with vaccinations to rid ourselves of COVID-19, which did not rid ourselves of COVID-19. As I've said many times on this broadcast, I took 3 of those shots, Moderna, the original series, and a booster, and then got COVID twice. So just exactly what were those vaccinations for? I don't think anybody knows. I don't know. And if I had known, or if I will ever find out, believe me, I'm going to report it. But at this particular moment, I'm still sitting here wondering just exactly what's going on. Again, are they really thinking about going down the same road? They're not really, are they? Oh, come on. They wouldn't consider this, would they? What are your thoughts? 817-379-2172. The telephone's right over there. By all means, join us. So Dr. John Brownstein, he's an epidemiologist and chief innovation officer at Boston Children's Hospital and an ABC News contributor, agreed with the WHO assessment that the surge is likely due to the lifting of COVID-19 restrictions. Quote, these known pathogens are causing a rise in cases, particularly among children, but there have been no reports of unusual or novel viruses. Good news, according to this, and the hospital capacities remain manageable. When COVID-19 began spreading across the world in January of 2020, China initiated some of the harshest, most draconian restrictions anywhere in the world to prevent continued outbreaks. Known as the zero COVID policies, they included lockdowns, mass testing. The country officially lifted its zero COVID policies in January of 2023 and ended the last of its primary pandemic era measures this past summer. Brownstein said a seasonal increase in respiratory illness occurring as COVID-19 restrictions were lifted is not exclusive to China, but is something seen globally. When the U.S. lifted many restrictions last year, it experienced a very similar pattern, with most states reporting high levels of flu-like activity. Flu-like activity. You mean the flu? You see, once again, I've talked about this over and over. Politics poisons everything. And politics cannot be something that is used as a way to suspend the law or the Constitution or the Bill of Rights of the United States. This is the problem they have created for themselves. None of this passes even the barest examination of simple logic. And skepticism has to be at least as high as the level of people becoming sick with, okay, the flu, not flu-like cases, but actual flu-like activity. Good heavens to Betsy. But he goes on to say the co-circulation of respiratory viruses and bacteria during the colder months often places additional burdens on healthcare facilities, making it critical or crucial for public health measures, including vaccination and enhanced surveillance, to be in place to manage these unexpected spikes in respiratory cases. Thank you, Dr. Brownstein. Really appreciate that. Sounds like gobbledygook. Sounds like gobbledygook. So how can we distill this down? Well, it looks like a trial balloon to me to see just exactly how far people want to go to create all manner of fear in the populace, fear enough to be able to willing to walk away from their own constitutional rights. It looks like that to me. And it also looks like there's a certain amount of butt covering, which leads to terms like flu-like activity, as opposed to the flu. So that's the way I see it. How do you see it? Again, telephone number 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. The Wells Report will continue in just a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Thanks for joining us. Hang on just a quick second as I stop the video. So here we go. Congress is feeling the heat from more than a dozen conservative groups that are calling for the passage of a National Defense Appropriations Act amendment to curtail or stop government contracts with the CCP's linked biotech firm. It's called the Beijing Genomics Institute. Why? are all of these conservative groups saying you got to stop doing business with these people? Well, aside from the obvious fact that whenever the United States government does business with anything having to do with the medical aspects of the People's Republic of China, the Constitution gets suspended. Maybe that has something to do with it. 16 conservative groups have sent a letter to senators and House lawmakers calling on them to pass the amendment to the NDAA to ban contracts with adversarial biotech companies, referring to the Beijing Genomics Institute. The amendments are led by Republicans Bill Hagerty of Tennessee, he's a senator, and Representative Mike Gallagher of Wisconsin. And so here's what's going on. The Gallagher is the chairman of the House Select Committee on the CCP. He told Fox News that BGI, quote, collects genetic data on people all over the world to include that of pregnant women and use it for research for the Chinese military, unquote. He goes on to say the CCP will undoubtedly use the genetic data collected by BGI to further malign aggression, potentially even to develop a bioweapon used to target the American people. The good news is Congress can do something about it. Senator Hagerty and I, he goes on, are working to prohibit the U.S. government and those that contract with the U.S. government from acquiring genetic sequencing equipment from BGI and its subsidiaries in this year's National Defense Authorization Amendment. I urge my colleagues on both sides of the aisle and in both chambers of Congress to protect Americans' sensitive health information and to include this critical provision in the final bill. The groups who signed the letter include Heritage Action, Americans for Limited Government, the Benjamin Rush Institute, the Frontiers of Freedom, along with many others. In their November 17th letter, the groups say the provisions would establish necessary safeguards to ensure that Americans' genomic information is protected from potentially malign actors seeking to amass and leverage this sensitive personal information to achieve economic and national security goals. So you know those DNA companies that will trace your ancestry? You know that all those people that spent 23andMe is one of those because there are 23 chromosomes. Remember how all those people put their money down and so on and so forth, and some ended up in jail because their DNA and their DNA sequence was immediately shared with law enforcement, specifically federal law enforcement, and then found themselves in that mess? Well, guess what? There's something even worse than the FBI grabbing that information that people paid for with their own money, which seems to violate the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution to me. But I guess if you're the FBI, you go, those rights are archaic. Oh, no, they're not. But anyway, that's another story for another day, isn't it? But all those 23andMe's and all that kind of stuff, you're giving away your genetic information. And where does it end up? You don't know. You have no idea. It is routine for federal law enforcement and state law enforcement who, when they arrest someone, to take DNA information. What for? Well, because they're the new fingerprints. And what they do is they compare it to DNA databases all over the nation for whatever reason. Well, it's not just, apparently, law enforcement that has that information. China has that information. And that which is not directly given to China. As a matter of fact, how many of these DNA companies are actually funded by the Chinese government? We don't know. But what you're doing is you're giving away information that, yeah, can be used in a bioweapons scenario to create a specific virus or specific illness that targets only people with similar genetics. There are, although it's very difficult here in the United States, because our gene pool is so vast, there are ways of being able to create illnesses for a specific genome sequence. And it's a lot easier in other countries. Like, for example, you know, the Germans have been living with Germans for thousands of years. Same with the Brits, same with the French, same with the Spanish, and the Italians, and so on and so on. Here in the United States, it's more difficult. The reason is because everybody's here. We have Italians, we have the Spanish, we have Polish, we have Russians, we have Ukrainians, we have Chinese, we have Hispanic folk. We have everybody here. Every single genomic sequence lives in the United States. So it would be difficult to come up with a virus that covers all those bases. At least more difficult than it would be in other countries. So we've only been around for 248 years. But the people of Spain have been living in Spain for thousands of years. And so they're more at risk for these kinds of things. But why would we want to help a group of people that are plainly adversarial to the people of the United States? Maybe you should rethink that DNA 23andMe thing. Just saying, until we have better ideas of where that information is going. This is the Wells Report. That is the first hour. Coming up in just a couple of seconds, Hunter Biden has been subpoenaed, and Hunter Biden is dictating terms. What's that all about? You'll find out in a moment. This is the Wells Report. Stay right where you are.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Hey, thanks for joining us this morning for the Wells Report, and make sure you share us with all your friends on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, Patreon, and don't forget to check out our Substack column, which will be coming up a little bit later on this afternoon. When you do all this, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give us those thumbs up. They are really important. Check the notification box so you know when we're on the air, and whatever you do, join us every morning, Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 a.m. Central Time, for the Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. Hi, I'm John David Wells. I got to say good afternoon because it's afternoon because it just worked out that way today. Thanks very much for joining us a little later than usual to find out what we've got for you today. And what is that? Well, it's news, honestly and truthfully reported. Analysis. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We deprogram or depropagandize the mainstream media here. We make commentary, which is not news. Commentary is just opinion, yours and mine, and so we debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. And so, the political football that is the Biden family is being passed around and so on. The House Oversight Committee, the House Judiciary Committee, and the House Commerce Committee, all chasing down, or the Ways and Means Committee, all chasing down just exactly what the Bidens have been up to with regards to what looks like the possibility of some compromising bribery acts done by that family. Nobody knows that's true yet, but they're chasing it down. In that chase, the Republican-led House Oversight Committee decided to subpoena Hunter Biden for a closed-door transcribed deposition under oath. The lawyers involved with Hunter Biden, specifically Abbe Lowell, told the Oversight Committee chairman that no, we're not going to comply with that particular subpoena. What we want to do is we want to just testify in open committee, publicly, on television, and just do that. Well, that's not what the Republicans want to do. There is reporting on this, and it comes to us from one of the best news journalists in the history of the art form, Catherine Herridge. This from CBS News.
This 3-page letter has been reviewed by CBS News, and Hunter Biden's lead attorney, Abbe Lowell, makes this offer for his client to publicly testify before the House Oversight and Judiciary Committees. Both issued subpoenas for records and for a closed-door transcribed interview, or what's mostly referred to as a deposition. What stands out in the letter is that Hunter Biden's attorney makes the argument that this year-long plus investigation by House Republicans hasn't provided this connective tissue between Hunter Biden's businesses and his father at the time, then Vice President Joe Biden. And it reads in part, your committee has been working for almost a year without success to tie our client's business activities to his father. Yet the counterpoint from Republicans is that they have been able to independently review banking records, and they say they show that over a 5-year period, most of which was when Joe Biden was vice president, more than 20 shell companies were set up. And they claim that ultimately $24 million was received through those shell companies that benefited members of the Biden family and their associates.
So how are House Republicans responding, Catherine?
Well, they're going to issue a statement this morning based on some conversations I had before sitting down with the Republican aide. They're very firm on the point that they asked for a closed-door interview or deposition. And part of their investigative strategy is to talk to people first, kind of gather the intelligence, and that allows them, in their view, to kind of tee up a more efficient and targeted public hearing. I think we all know, watching these public hearings with the limited question period of each member, they can kind of go off course and be very unwieldy. So this committee has elected to do closed-door information gathering interviews first before doing public testimony. And that may be ultimately the position they take here.
And so Catherine Herridge perfectly framing, as she often does, the issue at hand, in that, yes, Hunter Biden has been subpoenaed. That subpoena is very specific. It is for a transcribed interview in private under oath. And Abby Lowell, being a very, very good attorney, is essentially trying to rush the committee into something that they don't want to do for the reasons that Catherine Herridge just pointed out. What they don't want to do, what the committee does not want to do, is they don't want this to turn into a circus, which would be the case. That being said, I have a certain level of, shall I say, disagreement with the committee. And that is something that I'm going to share with you here in just a couple of minutes. There is further reporting on this particular topic, and here it is.
The House Oversight Committee has rejected Hunter Biden's offer to testify publicly. The committee has subpoenaed the president's son for a closed-door deposition on December 13th. It's related to a Republican impeachment inquiry into his father, but Hunter Biden says those private sessions can be manipulated. Lawyers for the president's son sent a letter to the committee claiming it has used closed-door sessions to distort the facts and misinform the public. The chairman of that committee says Hunter Biden will have a chance to testify publicly, but he expects him to cooperate with that subpoena.
Yeah, and that is something that is law, and that is something that Hunter Biden cannot escape. But what I find interesting and incredibly cynical is the idea from Abby Lowell that what is happening is that, well, there could be manipulation of closed-door depositions. He opposed the private testimony. This is Abby Lowell speaking in a letter to Comer, saying the committee chair has used selective leaks of closed-door depositions to distort witness testimony. Quote, we have seen you use closed-door sessions to manipulate, even distort the facts and misinform the public. We therefore propose opening the door, unquote. Well, here's the problem with all of that. That is exactly what the January 6th committee did when the shoe was on the other foot, when the January 6th committee was trying to chase down another president for the sake of impeachment. And yes, that did indeed happen. And that is the problem with closed-door depositions, because the mainstream media, which is decidedly pro-Biden, at least most of it, would then rush the committee, the people that had been in the closed-door meeting, and they would demand comment. And that comment would be run through the filter of politics. You can't help it in a congressional inquiry. Now, remember, this congressional inquiry is moving forward because the DOJ would not move forward. They simply wouldn't do it. They simply will not chase President Biden under any circumstances. And so that leaves the Congress to do it, which puts it into the purvey of politics. which is not the way this should be happening. Now, remember something. The Biden administration changed the law regarding financial transactions. It used to be that if you moved money more than, say, $10,000, or $10,000 was the limit, then a suspicious activity report would be generated by your bank and would be made available to the federal government. The Biden administration changed that number from $10,000 to $600, which meant that every time, say, for example, you got a paycheck that was over $600, there was an SAR generated, a suspicious activity report that was available to the federal bank agencies. Well, okay, that seems to be applied to all of us, but not applied to the Biden family. So the DOJ gets all this information and does nothing with it. And so the Congress is doing it. And the Congress is being manipulated by not just the Biden family, but certainly by the mainstream media. And so this is where we find ourselves today, where we find the DOJ absolutely going full tilt to try to find something on President Trump, but doing their dead level best to avoid doing anything with President Biden. Now, there is damning information from the House Oversight Committee. They've been very careful with it because, believe me, the idea that the Congress is then chasing another president for an impeachment is something that's tiresome to virtually all of us. And regardless of whether you agree with President Biden's politics or not, the idea that the Congress could make this an every 4-year event of trying to chase down a president to impeach is reprehensible. But that being said, there is no other course of action insofar as the DOJ, the Department of Justice, will not do their job. So, because the DOJ is now a political organization like many other executive branch agencies. And so, and by the way, yes, that is something that indeed the Supreme Court of the United States is going to be looking at. As a matter of fact, I think they're getting oral arguments today. And so, what do you think about all this? Is this a fool's errand? Do you believe that Abby Lowell saying this is just a wild goose chase and there's no reason to not do this in public? Well, yeah, there is a reason to not do it in public because the Republican Party, through the House Oversight Committee, wants to get their ducks in a row before they present it in a public hearing setting. Because if indeed they're able to take this testimony and compare it with the facts that they already have, then you can find yourself in a position where suddenly you might find yourself, if you're Hunter Biden, in a perjury trap, which has also been used by the DOJ under different circumstances. And so this degeneracy of the American government, all because of politics, is now rearing its ugly head again. And this is something I'm very fond of saying. The truth will out. The truth will out. The true stories will come out. And as time goes by and the lies that were told previously begin to unravel, very much like COVID-19, as we now find ourselves in a position where there's more RSV there, then the kids are involved. My God, the kids. All of this is coming to the fore again. The idea that this would be manipulated one more time, as we discussed last hour, if you missed it, by the way, go back and check it out, is not something that's going to have the same effect. And so now we have this situation where indeed the government of the United States is doing its job, or at least parts of it, where suspicious activity reports are being generated for vast sums of money, according to the House Oversight Committee, some $24 million. And they say that in all of the reporting that I can find on this today, they say that it's $24 million from sources around the world. Well, what sources? China, Ukraine, Romania. There are all kinds of monies that are not accounted for. And at some point, it's going to have to be accounted for. Now, let me get to the part that perhaps belies what I think ought to happen. One, the subpoena has to be honored. Hunter Biden is going to have to do this deposition first. But as far as I'm concerned, let it turn into a gigantic food fight. Go ahead and let it become this shouting match, this political football, this gobbledygookian foolishness that happens between Democrats and Republicans in these committee hearings. Because the Republicans can simply say, hey, this is what we've got, and this is the evidence that we have, and we want the American people to consider it. And then the Democrats will try to stand up for all of this being nothing that has anything to do with the President of the United States, and therefore look like what they're doing is trying to submerge the facts for the sake of their politics. Also, by the way, the 5-minute thing, that can be 10 minutes. It can be 15 minutes. It can be anything that the committee wants it to be. It depends on whether or not they want to pierce this unbelievable protection of the Biden family for the sake of actually getting to the bottom of what may be a compromised president, compromised by nations adversarial to us. By the way, I forgot to include Iran. Just exactly why is the government protecting Iran, especially when Iran is the proxy leader or uses its proxy armies to slaughter Jews? All kinds of questions, not many answers, but we'll get to them. This is the Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. Greetings. My name is John David Wells. Our telephone number 817-379-2172. And it is, as you know, the season of endorsements for presidential candidates. And President Donald Trump got a surprising endorsement from someone, at least I never expected would actually do this. Specifically, the BLM chairman of the state of Rhode Island.
You know, we've been used and abused for so long. That party, they don't value our vote. Their policies are basically racist policies, and I believe it's a racist party. Donald Trump he's the opposite. He's going to tell you how it is. He's going to give it to you straight. Trump has done more for the Black community than any president I can think of in my lifetime.
Yeah, and so BLM is now endorsing President Donald Trump, at least in Rhode Island. That's kind of a surprise. What isn't a surprise is the fact that there are people in the Republican Party that are not, say, for example, overly enamored with the idea that President Trump is still the leader of the Republican Party, thanks to at least 62 million votes that may be cast in the 2024 election. These people just don't seem to get that the Republican Party was fired in 2016, and they refused to believe it. And to that end, they're spending an awful lot of money not believing it. The 45th president's enemies, this is CNN, so they won't mention Donald Trump by name, on the right are mustering a final big money showdown designed to crush the hopes of a third consecutive Republican nomination for President Trump less than 50 days before voting starts in the GOP primary. Nikki Haley has received lavish funding and carry the hopes of these influential people like Charles Koch. He is one of these Republicans that loves the moderate aspect of the party, which means they get nothing done. Other top industrialists and corporate donors believe that Donald Trump is way too big a risk. The bet is that all this money will somehow have more success than the same money that was applied to Jeb Bush, the $100 million frontrunner. Yeah. And they're trying to accomplish what Jeb Bush wasn't able to accomplish. Democrat nominee Hillary Clinton, 2 impeachments, people like Mitt Romney, who also, by the way, got an awful lot of funding from the Koch brothers when there were 2 of them, and millions splashed by the Club for Growth, the Lincoln Project, other allied groups. A 2020 election defeat, they're saying, well, he lost in 2020, he's going to lose again. Well, maybe. But what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to make sure that Donald Trump doesn't make it to the nomination. Well, what do you think about that? You think Donald Trump is going to make it to the nomination? I'm still trying to figure out just exactly why all these people are throwing millions upon millions upon millions of dollars to people that are 20, 30, even 40 points behind the president in recent polling, including in Iowa. Why are they doing this? Well, because they are trying to maintain the status quo ante. That status quo ante is something that President Donald Trump disrupted mightily in 2016. Remember, politics is a coin with a left side, the Democrats, and a right side, the Republican, but it's the same coin. And that coin is being mightily protected by people on the other side of it, as opposed to those who say, you know, I need an adversarial Republican Party, adversarial to those forces of the American left and the Democrat Party that it has taken over, to restore the country into something more recognizable to those of us who have actually lived in it for the past 40, 50, 60 years. And so the question is, just exactly what are these guys trying to do? They're trying to split the Republican Party. That all but guarantees a Democrat president in 2024, or maybe not. It just depends on how things go. So it's always interesting, but at some point, I'd really appreciate it if they'd start taking care of the American people.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
This is the Wells Report. Hi, John David Wells at your service. Time for a little bit of science, shall we? It's been 66 million years since dinosaurs roamed the earth. And everybody says what killed the dinosaurs was a giant asteroid that hit that hit the earth and changed the climate. Years, scientists have been debating whether the meteorite alone is responsible. This is coming to you from USA Today. That's going to be important here in a couple of minutes. They're trying to figure out whether the meteorite alone is responsible for one of the most infamous mass extinction events in world history, or whether there were other things that may have caused the problem. Reigniting the debate is a recent study that says that volcanic eruptions may have already thrown the ecosystem into chaos and threatened the existence of non-bird dinosaurs before the asteroid crashing to Earth delivered the fatal blow. This is an international team of researchers. We need to keep that in mind, too, for just a little bit here. They are the latest experts who claim the world that the dinosaurs roamed was one teeming with critical levels of sulfur that set the stage for the extinction. Such instability would have triggered a global drop in temperatures around the world, creating conditions inhospitable to life. This, according to the research. The team's findings were published in October in Science Advances and revealed in a press release last week. Quote, our research demonstrates that climatic conditions were almost certainly unstable, with repeated volcanic winters that could have lasted for decades prior to the extinction of the dinosaurs. This, according to the study co-author Don Baker, who's a geologist at McGill University. Our work helps explain the significant extinction event that led to the rise of mammals and the evolution of our species. The study is the latest among a long-standing scientific debate regarding what factors are to blame for wiping out 75% of life on Earth, including dinosaurs, and ushering the end of the Cretaceous period. I'm not going to say it. What was the asteroid that slammed into present-day Mexico responsible for the mass extinction when it unleashed devastating tsunamis and ash that blotted out the sun? Or did massive volcanic eruptions at a site called the Deccan Traps in India doom life on Earth long before? That question is what drew researchers to the vast rugged plateau in western India formed by molten lava, where they hammered rocks and collected samples to analyze. Analysis showed allowed the team to estimate the amount of sulfur and fluorine that volcanic eruptions spewed into the atmosphere 200,000 years before the dinosaurs' demise. They found enough sulfur was released to trigger a steep enough drop in global temperatures to trigger a volcanic winter. Yeah. Okay, so let's get to the basis of all of this. First of all, this is from USA Today. USA Today is a center-left organization that reports on things that are friendly to people who believe that the climate of the entire world is going to kill us all. That's called climate change. This is science doing its dead level part to do what everybody else does in the world, which is play politics and nourish the idea that the only way to save ourselves from climate catastrophe is to pay politicians money. It's the only way we can do it. If we don't pay these politicians money, if we don't alter our rights and the way we live our lives, then the atmosphere will kill us all. Yeah, I don't believe any of that. Now, that's one thing. That's USA Today. That covers the USA Today thing and barely covers the science aspect of it, which science has taken a dramatic hit, as you might expect, because of the garbage that they've been throwing at us, both with climate change and with their rather silly explanations of, say, for example, COVID-19. And so what we have here is we have science, which has lost a huge amount of credibility, now trying to come up with an idea that says volcanoes were responsible, at least the start. And then the asteroid that hit Mexico was the final blow. There are a couple of other things here. First of all, they're doing this based on the research done at a volcanic site in India. So they've been going around there collecting samples. And crazily enough, we do know that volcanoes do emit a large amount of sulfur. They do. Not recently. This is 200,000 years before 66 million years ago. Anyway, this sulfur circled the globe and created a volcanic winter. So if we have global warming problems, why don't we start throwing sulfur into the air to cool off the planet? In other words, when we decided to stop burning high sulfur diesel fuel, maybe we should go back to the old diesel fuel and let this pollution take effect so that it cools the atmosphere. Anyway, that's one problem with this. The other problem with this is the research itself. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of sulfur in this volcanic site. So they would say, well, from there, we can estimate how much sulfur was released. Okay. But that's only one spot. Did it actually circle the globe? Nobody knows. Nobody has any idea. But that didn't stop this shaky research from being the latest thing to scare the living snot out of you, because that might have killed the dinosaurs. Well, since we've decided to change the kinds of cars we drive, how we cook our food, how we want to reduce carbon footprint and all of this to keep the atmosphere from killing us all, then maybe what we ought to start thinking about is the reality of all of this, which there is none. It has to do basically with the idea that no, it's not going to be volcanoes, but if it is volcanoes, what should we do to stop volcanoes from doing it again? Well, of course, I can sort of look into the future because I have ESP. I can look into the future and say, well, okay, in order to do this, what we need to do is we need to stop doing anything that might cause a volcanic winter. Yeah, that means what we should do is we should stop mowing our lawns, because that puts vibrations into the Earth's crust. So we have to stop mowing our lawns. We have to stop doing anything that might trigger a volcanic winter. And so how do you control volcanoes? Well, that's about as difficult as controlling the atmosphere, but that doesn't mean the politicians won't try. So we have to do anything that stops any kind of vibration that might descend into the core of the Earth and create a volcanic winter. But then again, if we do have a volcanic winter, since they've already said that it was sulfur that cooled the atmosphere, maybe we'll get rid of global warming. You see, what we have here is, what's the word? Garbage. Yeah, this is garbage. There's nothing we can do about it. So why don't we stop? Why don't we stop trying to do things that only involve paying politicians more money? See, that's what I think is the idea. I think it's ridiculous. Good heavens to Betsy. But that's not all there is. There's more. There's a black hole at the center of our galaxy. It is a supermassive black hole. It's called Sagittarius A. Sagittarius A is spinning very rapidly and altering space-time around it, according to a new study. This, by the way, has to do with the fact that light, and indeed time, is distorted by gravity. Black holes have lots of it. And supermassive black holes have even more than is comprehensible. Space-time is the four-dimensional continuum that describes how we see space, fusing one-dimensional time and three-dimensional space together to represent a space fabric that curves in response to massive celestial bodies. Yeah. A team of physicists observed the black hole, which is located 26,000 light years from Earth, with NASA's Chandra X-ray Observatory. That's a telescope designed to detect X-ray emissions from the hot regions of the universe. They calculated Sagittarius A's rotational speed by using what is known as the outflow method, which looks at radio waves and X-ray emissions that can be found in the material and gases surrounding black holes, otherwise known as the accretion disk. This, according to the study published in October in the monthly notices of the Royal Astronomical Society. The researchers confirmed the black hole is spinning, which caused what is known as the lens-thirring effect, also known as frame dragging. The lens-thirring effect is what happens when a black hole drags space-time along with its spin, according to the lead study author, Ruth Daly, a physics professor at Penn State University who designed the outflow method over a decade ago. Since the invention of the outflow method, Daly has been working to determine the spin of various black holes and authored a 2019 study that explored over 750 supermassive black holes. With this spin, Sagittarius A will be dramatically altering the shape of space-time in its vicinity. We're used to thinking and living in a world where the spatial dimensions are equivalent. The distance to the ceiling and the distance to the wall and distance to the floor, they're all sort of linear. It's not like one is totally squished up compared to the others. But if you have a rapidly rotating black hole, the space-time around it is not symmetric. The spinning of the black hole has dragged all of space-time around with it. It squishes down the space-time. It looks like a football. The altering of space-time is nothing to worry about, but illuminating this phenomenon could be very useful to astronomers. It's a wonderful tool to understand the role that black holes play in a galaxy formation and evolution, the fact that they're dynamic entities which can be spinning and that they can impact the galaxy that it's sitting in is very exciting and very interesting. My God. Do you know what this means? Me neither. I have no idea what this means. I have no idea what it means. I barely understand that gravity has an awful lot to do with the actual length of time. And the relativity thing, I've been chasing that for decades. And so I have a bare understanding of just exactly what gravity does mean to the space-time continuum. But all I can tell you is that these people have too much time on their hands. They absolutely have too much time on their hands. And then there's this. The reason they have too much time on their hands and the reason that they're able to think about this kind of stuff may be because they take naps. Yes, they take naps. It appears as though if you take naps, specifically after lunch, then what can happen is that your brain might be bigger than people who don't. Check this out.
Experimental American studies, and what they looked at was essentially whether people who napped versus didn't nap had any cognitive benefits. These studies showed that it looked like people who took a nap did have better cognitive function, so their thinking skills improved, whether that be things like how quickly you process things, your memory, those sorts of thinking skills. So the biggest takeaway is that we found a very clear effect of having a regular daytime nap on the total size of the brain.
The study found that people who had regular naps saw an objective difference in brain size compared to those who didn't. We know that as we age, our brains shrink, and that can be associated with cognitive decline. And what she's fundamentally saying is that people who napped regularly in many ways had younger brains than those who didn't. Is there a right length of a nap? And is it possible to sleep or nap too much?
One of the issues that people say often, if you sleep for too long in the day, is you wake up feeling groggy, you wake up feeling worse. And that's because you've gone into deep sleep. Your brain is preparing in mimicking that sleep at night and thinks you're now ready to sleep for the rest of the day. So in order to avoid that, we've been quite conservative and said, well, maybe something up to about 30 minutes.
Along those same lines, is there an optimal time of day then to nap?
There's evidence that the post-lunch period to take a nap is a good time to do it. People have said, oh, but what if my employer doesn't allow it or I can't do it? If you have an hour for lunch, you have half an hour where you're having your nap or 20 minutes and then you eat and then you have a few minutes and you're ready to go again.
We talk a lot about sleep hygiene at night to get ready to go to sleep. Keep a cool, dark room, turn off devices, do all those sorts of things. Sleep hygiene for a nap, is it the same?
Quite similar. You want to find somewhere, as quiet as you can to take your nap. Take a break from your phone, your iPad, whatever emails. Where it can be tricky, I suppose, is that if you're wanting to persuade employers to have a space for people to nap, how would we go about that? And of course, that's difficult if you're in the middle of a city, busy office. But we do have, for example, where I work at UCL, we have prayer rooms for people. We have rooms for breastfeeding. So I think something similar where people can also nap and leave your devices behind and try to take that rest.
Yeah. So if you take a nap, your brain will stay bigger. Of course, it depends on what you're dreaming, I suppose. But the thing about it is that you got to keep in mind that when it comes to brains, size doesn't matter, which is something that I think I prove every single day. Telephone number is 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. I don't want to interrupt your nap in case you happen to be having one. But if you have something to say, I sure would like to hear it, especially about napping, which is something that I would very much like to perfect. So sleep for 30 minutes after lunch every single day, and your brain will stay huge.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
This is the Wells Report with John David Wells at your service. Telephone number 817-379-2172. If you're watching this and you like it, please, by all means, share it with your friends. Subscribe to the broadcast. Give us those thumbs ups. Those are really helpful. They make it a lot better for us with our people that watch all the statistics and so on and so forth. They say, hey, people are listening. And that is something we really need. So help us out, okay? There are service animals, emotional support service animals. They're animals that are essentially assistants for people that need help. A lot of those people that have emotional support animals or service animals are veterans of various wars in our past. There is a guy named Andrew Hanselman. He has a service animal, and the name of the service animal is Eli. And Eli is not just your basic service animal. Eli is, kind of unique. Check this out.
When it comes to mental health, getting the help you need comes in all different shapes, sizes, and as I recently found out here in Wyoming, species.
I have this deep connection to him, even when he's outside, just being a horse. It's like I can feel him because I'm so attached to him emotionally.
This is Eli and Andrew. Andrew is the human, and Eli is his ADA service miniature horse, an unlikely pair that you might have seen walking around that can thank their relationship to the Terminator himself.
Everybody knows Arnold Schwarzenegger, though he does little videos, and he has a miniature donkey and a miniature horse.
Those videos led to some targeted ads for service mini horses, which led Andrew to Eli, a relationship the Iraq War veteran says is about as close as it gets.
So I sustained hundreds, at least hundreds of mortars, and then a rocket. So I have a mild TBI and pretty severe PTSD. And since I've had him, it's really helped out. And I can't say that enough. Eli has really helped me out to be with my agitation and other issues that I have as a disabled veteran.
Most service animals are dogs, but following a revised regulation to the Americans with Disabilities Act, miniature horses are allowed just about the same protections as their canine coworkers under the ADA. But seeing Eli in the produce section brings out a few more phones.
People pay a lot of attention.
Not all of it is positive attention, though. Andrew said that he has received some pushback from fellow shoppers and even veterans from time to time. And according to VA policies, only dogs are allowed as service animals inside their buildings, something Andrew hopes to change.
It's a very deep emotional attachment.
And you know it must be, because you only carry around extra plastic bags for the ones you love.
And if he stops on his own, I just glance back, and if his tail raises, I just drop his lead, and he just does his business right in the bag with him. Occasionally, I won't get it in time, but 9 out of 10 times, I do.
Reporting from Wyoming, Andy Curtis, Fox 17 News.
I have an emotional support animal. Perhaps you can see him now. This is Odin, my Rottweiler. He's my emotional support Rottweiler. I don't take him everywhere I go. And yeah, I carry around plastic bags, but I don't take him to the store. By the way, I actually find it ridiculous that shoppers, especially in that Walmart where Andrew was walking with his horse, I really have a problem with people having problems with that horse, because at least a horse, and I don't know whether you noticed this in the video, but at least a horse can cover its butt crack. So that's not something you see in Walmart all the time. And so I don't really understand why that would be a problem for people in Walmart to begin with. It's just a man and his horse. Now, I don't take Odin into the Walmart near me because, well, he doesn't have a tail, and therefore there's a. But anyway, that being said, I really care about veterans, especially those that have injuries, and clearly Andrew does. And if that horse helps him, I'm okay with it. But I have seen emotional support alligators, which I think is a little bit stretching the limit, especially when people want to take them on airplanes. Because you see, there's a very primitive brain inside alligators. They're very primitive. They don't have emotions. How they could possibly help with someone who does, I don't understand. I'm also a little bit concerned about where would you hold the bag under your alligator? Just saying. But, the good news is that once again, there's no butt crack issue at Walmart. Emotional support pony. Although that's not a pony, that's a mini horse. Yeah. And frankly, I think it's ridiculous that people would be upset about it. I mean, they need to get off their high horse, especially when you're talking about a mini horse, which is not especially high, is it? Just a moment of zen to steal something from Jon Stewart. This is the Wells Report. I want to thank you for joining us. Yeah, we had a little bit of a trouble earlier today, which is why we did our show between noon and 2 today. But we'll be back at our regular time tomorrow. I'll be taking some time off for a small holiday vacation, and I'll tell you more about that on the next edition of the Wells Report. The executive producer of this broadcast is Dirk Steele. He works from Steelboy Studios in Denver, Colorado. Our associate producer and publicist is Jube Dankworth. You heard from her when I reached out and said, "Hey, Jube, can you help me out?" And say, "Hey, I got a problem with my rig in here, and could you tell people I'll be on at noon?" And she did. I'm John David Wells. God bless you and yours, and for goodness sakes, take good care of yourselves and have yourself a great day. Be safe, make great decisions, and I will see you again tomorrow for another edition of the Wells Report. And so there we go. God bless all y'all. Thanks very much for being with us today. Take good care. And like I said, I'll see you tomorrow.